Well, it's good to be here tonight. I am Barry Bachman. I work at the Stillwater Church of Christ in their college ministry or university center or Bible chair, whatever you want to call it. But it's good to be here, and I hope that y'all are just blessed by this thought that I get to share with y'all. So the thought that I'm going to share is out of Exodus 4, and it's kind of right on the heels. If you're familiar with the story, it's coming right after Genesis, or this promise by God to bless Abraham and through him to make him into a great nation, right? In Genesis 12, it says, so that all nations could be blessed, right? So God has this purpose that he's going to work in Abraham and work in this nation of Israel to bring redemption, to bring blessing. And so we pick up in Exodus, and we're right on the heels of the nation of Israel finding itself in Egypt. Joseph took his family there to save him from famine, and it starts in a good spot, but the story of Exodus opens, and they found themselves in slavery, right? The Pharaoh that they were kind of in favor with, they'd fallen out of favor with over these 400 years, and so they find themselves in a really bad spot. And so Moses is, we kind of are introduced to right at the beginning of this Exodus story. And what we find really where we pick up tonight is God calling Moses to go back into Egypt. He's left because he killed someone, right? He was trying to someone was being mistreated, and so he killed the person that was mistreating him. But he leaves Egypt because of this. And so God calls him to go back into Egypt, right? To go back into this place that he's been kicked out of and to help deliver his people, to help deliver the Israelites out of this, God's people. And so that's kind of where we pick up. And the passage that I want to read tonight, and that really is just kind of my thought, is Exodus 4:29 to 31. And so if you want to read along with me, you can. But I'll read it for you. Moses and Aaron brought together all the elders of the Israelites. And Aaron told them everything the Lord had said to Moses. He also performed the signs before the people, and they believed. And when they had heard that the Lord was concerned about them, and that he had seen their misery, they bowed down and worshipped. And I find this really interesting. Think about what it would have been like for the Israelites to be in this situation. 400 years had passed. That's a long time. Whenever God meets Moses in the burning bush, one of Moses' concerns is, how are they going to know who sent me? Right? How is this message or what you're sending me to do, how is it going to be validated? Who am I going to say is sending me? And so that indicates to me that it seems like the Israelites have probably lost touch completely with their God, right? They probably have very little, if any, familiarity with Yahweh, right? If they don't even know what God would be sending Moses to them, they probably don't know who this is. And so imagine what it would have been like for the Israelites. You're in this nation, you're being enslaved and mistreated, they're killing your children so that you don't kind of become a threat to them. And into this moment, someone comes and says to you, there's a God that sees what's going on in your world. There's a God who sees what's happening to you, and he cares. He cares about what's happening, and he's going to do something about it. I mean, just think about that. I almost get like goosebumps thinking about how impactful that is. And I think they did too, right? They fall down and they worship at that very moment. They experience that moment, and they just fall down and worship the God who sees them and who has heard their cries, who's heard their misery, and who cares and is going to do something about it. And so what was true of God is also true today of God for his people, right? That God sees us, right? In all of our lives and in everything we go through, the good and the bad, the up and the down, all of it, God sees us and he cares about us, right? His people, he's filled with compassion for them, and even more than just us, right? God has compassion on all people, but he sees us and he cares and he acts still. And sometimes I think that's hard. At least it is for me. I don't know if that's hard for you, but sometimes that's the one of these maybe that it's easy to struggle with, right? That when we pray, right, and there is, right, we know this, that sometimes God's answer is no, or maybe sometimes God's answer is not yet. And so, but sometimes I think it's easy to just think that it's always going to be no, or it's easy to think that it's always going to be not yet. And so I think this reminder is important for me, and I hope that it blesses you tonight, is that God sees us and that he cares about us and that he acts, right? That when he hears us cry out and when he hears us call, he acts. And so really this is a short lesson. They said for it to be short. I'm good at short, so it's going to be pretty brief. But the few thoughts that I want to leave you with is just that, is that God sees and God cares and God acts. And remember that, because that meant something to the Israelites when they heard that. And it changed their nation forever, right? But even in that moment when they were still in slavery, it changed things for them. They met that moment and they met God and they saw his goodness and his character and his love, and they fell down and they worshiped. And so take that with you. Let yourself be blessed by that. Remember that God sees, God cares, and God acts. And then if there's a challenge in this lesson, it's let yourself take that with you to others. Right? John 3:16, one of the most famous verses. Right? For God so loved the world. Right? So let yourself remember that as you interact with people in day-to-day life, as we interact with people in day-to-day life, as we see people, see them the way God sees them. See them with compassion and mercy. Right? See what they're going through and their struggles and their challenges. Right? See and care and act when you can. Right? Act to help and to bless. Because in that they really do see something transformative and powerful about who God is.